Good morning again, and thanks for those of you coming in here to come in again. As I look at the day, the blurb that I sent that beautiful Nancy reminded me of was that of a new earth. And I've been moving toward, I've heard this many times over the years, this how we are working to survive and what happens in the mind when we're in survival mode. And then anything that threatens our little egoic pseudo self is a threat to our very survival. Like, as strange as it sounds, like if someone doesn't invite me to their party, I have such a reaction to that, because if we track that out in the mind thinks it's dying, because it's like they didn't include me, they don't like me, they don't value me, they won't include me, I'll be alone, I'll die under a bridge in a box. So as funny as it sounds, if we just track all that out in the mind, whatever happens in our life that causes us to have those big reactions, that's at the core of it. So we hear things like that. Oh, how can I get out of this survival brain? How can I get out of this amygdala? How can I get up here into this bigger mind that understands the mind that we use when we meditate, contemplate, reflect, when we plan, when we express gratitude, when we're giving, when we're what we're called our truest nature, our truest nature. So think about this then, because as I've looked at this, and the absolute how to then, without, we were laughing before some of you came on today, like these New Year's resolutions and resolving to resolve and resolving to do this. And it's like, what if this was the year we didn't? That says, I'm going to kind of take myself out of the pressure cooker. I'm going to get myself off the spit. It may means to stop comparing, to compare less. It may be to accept divine timing, not mine. Like, oh, but I'm in a hurry. It's like nature isn't. And I've planted some bulbs some people gave me for the holidays for Christmas, and I've watched them grow right here off my kitchen table. Just a bulb that shows no life whatsoever, in dark, in dirt, with just a little moisture added to that soil, and life and its nature and the impulse of that bulb to make a flower. And it's not required anything of me. And life itself expressing. So what if we saw ourselves like that, like an organism, a plant, a tree, a shrub, whatever, a bloom, and that it's unfolding exactly as it should. You, my friends, me, are unfolding to exactly as we should. So if we gave no more thought, no more concern to our own survival, surrender to the divine impulse, the divine direction, the divine life, growing us, blooming us, pruning us, whatever has to be done for it to express perfectly. What would it be like to align with that? To work less, to care less, to stress less, to watch, just to see. So my thought is that it's what we read and think about, like, oh, then I wouldn't be in survival mode. I'm actually in thriving mode, regardless of the circumstances. That I'm being pruned at times. And most of you, if you're gardeners, we lived on a farm, so pruning was a big part of our annual had to do. because it's what provided growth for the next year. And when we get pruned, we don't like it all that much. It seems to be painful, and there's purpose in it. So think about then how you would know. What would you say about what would you as somebody in a thriving mode be like? Less concerned with survival, less concerned with doing it right, less concerned with timing, less concerned with how it turns out. How would that feel? How would your day be different? So let's see then. And some of you I know already are masters at this. So let's see, even if you're already masterful at this, how can we dial it up another hair? How can we turn our luminosity dial up? Again, not because we're not illumined, not because we're less than, but just because we want to see what it would be like to turn up my luminosity dial and to get more and more aware of what causes my dial to get turned down. And this week, someone shared with me that someone invited them to Disney. And they went, and it was time to check in. And she got her card out to pay. And the lady said, "No, I'm going to pay. And I have an employee discount." And she said, "Well, you're not an employee." She said, "I know, but I use somebody else's employee discount." Now, do you think that turns your luminosity dial down or up? And not judgmentally, because now to one person, that could have turned their luminosity dial up. They think it's resourceful, smart, even wise. Like somebody offered me the discount, Disney doesn't need the money, whatever. It could turn their luminosity dial up. So be it. That's their path. That's their life. So no judgment, no blame, no shame, no guilt. But if it doesn't turn your luminosity dial up, then who's responsible for that? That says, I'd rather just go ahead and pay. And it's fine for you to use the discount. Go right ahead. It's fine. I just don't want to, because it might linger on me. It might cause me to regret it, or to wish I hadn't, or to even be ashamed of it or something. So I've got to be careful about my actions and whether or not my luminosity dial is getting turned up or turned back. I know for me, when I say I'm fine, I'm just fine, but I'm not really fine, doesn't cause me to thrive. So I value authenticity. I value it in myself. I value it in others. So when I'm not authentic, then it causes my luminosity dial to go down. So think about it a minute. Just reflect on what would cause your luminosity dial to turn back or decrease just a little. What is it that might be happening in your life, in your relationships, at work, that would cause you to lose some power, some radiance? And again, it doesn't make you awful, doesn't make you wrong or anything like that. We're looking at what are the effects here, and waking up to new ways of being. What are some examples where it didn't feel just right? Just to be informed about it. So no blame, no shame, no guilt, nothing like that. But to be informed about this. Like, oh, I know this burns me. I know this turns my luminosity dial down. And I don't want that. I'm not going to be doing as much of that going forward. So think about then, what does make your tail wag? What do you do that feels delightful? And I'm encouraging us today, as I'm doing this again myself, to look at things that other people would call petty or insignificant. So for me, I go out of my way to go to one specific store that has this beef jerky that my nephew Wesley loves. So there's beef jerky at every store, but it's not his favorite. So I go out of my way to get that. And the world would say, well, you do that for Wesley. It's like, well, it looks like I'm doing it for Wesley, but I'm really doing it for me. It's a gift to me because it illuminates me, turns up my luminosity dial. I do the same thing for the neighbors. If I'm out clearing in my yard and there's something technically in their yard, I go ahead and get it, to pick it up, to put it away. Now, they may or may not ever know that. I don't have a need to report it. It sounds like no big deal. But we're looking at the effects that these little bitty things have over time. And it was written, and it still makes me emotional to think about it, about Mother Teresa, that she did small things with great love. Small things done with great love. So think about what those are that you're already doing. And the great love that causes you to do it. And then see, where's a few more ways I could do that? So regardless of what I'm doing, where could I turn that dial up just a little bit? Just a little bit. Where could you turn it up just a little bit? So I'll read a few ideas, and I'd love to hear yours. So if you're using the chat, maybe put it over there in the chat. Or if not, send it to me, or just make your own list for yourself. To write a personal note to someone. An expression of gratitude. It could be for something they've done for you, something they've given to you. It could be somebody that introduced you to new thought, to signs of mind, to unity. Someone that is not expecting something in the mail from you. Something that's not for an occasion, but for your remembering them. Get a sense of how that may dial up your luminosity. I had someone to make soup for me this week. And she asked me twice before I could even eat the soup, how was it? Did you enjoy your soup? Now, in the past, I would have thought that how crazy it is for me to tell her that and to carry on about that. because she already knows I like the soup. She's made it before. I love it. I even requested this soup. So of course she knows I loved it. Of course she knows I like it. Of course she knows I appreciate it. But it's like, it doesn't replace speaking the words, particularly if it's someone's love language. Most of you have studied that probably, our love languages. So words of appreciation, words of gratitude, words of affirmation are medicine for our souls. Medicine for my soul to speak it, medicine for somebody else's soul to receive it. So, and it takes me nothing to send off a little text of me making sound, yum, 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 yum. I'm having the soup, or I'm having my third bowl of soup now, or something like that. So it was a delight for me, something very simple. And it apparently made a difference in her heart and soul too, even though it didn't make a lot of sense, or it wasn't technically necessary. So think about thriving. How you're already thriving. And what would cause more thriving energy, more thriving nature, and an absolute shift out of the surviving, an absolute shift out of the concern for surviving, and a concern for that's alive in joy, alive in gratitude, alive in well-being. For my well-being, I'm going to be doing and focusing more on what thrives me and what would cause more thriving in me. So I'll put a few things out here, and not to have you to resolve to do them, but to see, would it be some seeds that we sow? Or maybe the seeds are sown already, and this is a way to just water it a little bit. You've heard them, most of them before. Identify my blessings. All the bounty that I have. Could be a soft blanket. Yesterday, somebody said they couldn't afford an airline ticket to go home. Nowhere in here can I even imagine not having the resources, the ideas, the funds, the friends, that if I didn't have the funds, I would have the community, the friends that have the funds to get an airplane ticket. So is it a lack of funds, or is it a lack of awareness? And friends, we're just a thought away from it. A thought away from thinking and believing the same way. So keep something out there to look forward to. This is proven scientifically for well-being, for health, to have something to look forward to, with no concern of if it happens or not. No concern with I must make it happen. It's like, I look forward to it. I've done a few things. I've got some things in motion. I have a plan. I've paid for it. I've got something scheduled, and then I surrender to it. And I'm still looking forward to it. To be aware of your strengths. One of my primary spiritual practices the last quarter, and I'm going to keep going with it because it's serving me quite well in my thriving, and it is to go with it. So my 6-year-old Hadelin got an award at school for being proactive. She got a certificate of appreciation for being proactive. I have a picture of it. And I was telling somebody about it yesterday. And she said, that's not what the award was. I got the award for being right all the time. Well, that's not what the certificate said. Yes, it did. That's what the certificate said. And I could hear my own voice say, go with it. Go with it. And then the irony of she's arguing that her certificate says she's right. So I'll be more thriving if I allow her to be, instead of trying to be right myself. So I was serving, helping somebody with a meal during the holidays. They had a very smallish kind of turkey breast that they had prepared. And I asked, do you want me to cut this up? Yes. And I reached and got a beautiful red plate that one. No, I don't want it on that. I want it on that big platter up there on the top. And I said, well, it's that platter's too big for this amount of meat. I want it on that red platter. And I heard my own sound of my own voice say, go with it. Go with it. So go with it is for my own self, my own sake, for my own thriving well-being, or argue some more, or push my way, or resist. And then my final example maybe is somebody was baking cookies at this retreat that I was doing, and they followed the directions, which said 350 degrees for 10 minutes. The cookies turned out black and charred. They had to be thrown out. So the next day, somebody else is going to take us go at it. And I said, now, yesterday they followed the directions exactly, and they turned out black and charred. Did you see the cookies and how they turned out? Yes, I saw the cookies and how they turned out. Okay, so I'm recommending you lower the degrees and lower the amount of time and they're in the oven. And she said, it says right here to bake 350 degrees for 10 minutes. That's what I'll do. I said, did you miss the part? Did you hear the part where that's what she did yesterday and they turned out? It says right here, 350 for 10. Go with it. Go with it. So one of my strengths and the muscle that I'm building is go with it. So see what maybe one of your strengths is and how you can reactivate it in this new year for your own thriving nature. What might that be? So big deep breath. Well-being. Don't have to like what is, don't have to like how they are, don't have to love what is, don't have to love what they are. And I don't have to go to war with it either. I'm new in the new year, and I'm getting newer all the time. Shockingly newer, radically newer for my own well-being and my own thriving. So I send you my best uplift, my best prayer, my best blessing that I can confer on you to be new and newer in ways that absolutely delight you. And if there's ever a way I can serve you, get directly in touch with me. Martha Creek at gmail.com, marthacreek.com. And you're welcome to join any classes or anything in the world I'm ever doing. You're welcome to be part of it. And I thank you for the way you are in the world. I thank you for your part in creating a new earth and for living and being in a way that is purposeful and that is ever, ever, ever evolving. So be it. Bless you all. Much love. MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.